Welcome everyone to the HR Green Room, the place where people, culture and a couple of splashes of lime green come together. I'm your host, Louise Johnston, Head of Sales and Customer Success at Phase 3. Together, we lift the curtain on the world of HR with fresh ideas, honest conversations and a few surprises along the way. Each episode, we'll ask our guest a certain feature, and today it is When You Were Green with Gemma Gorey and what deserves the green light in the world of HR, which I'll talk to you about. Of course, we'll be joined by some brilliant guests who bring their own colour to the conversation. So grab a seat, the show's about to start in the HR Green Room. And today, as I say, we are joined by Gemma Gorey, and you've come in green colours.
I have, yeah, obviously forethought. It's not quite the Phase 3 green, but I think it's near enough.
Oh, Gemma, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. Would you like to introduce yourself, your role at Phase 3, and the big topic that we are going to talk about today is AI.
Yes.
Tell us how that lands with you.
So currently I am the AI strategy lead at Phase 3, which obviously is a job that when I started at Phase 3 didn't exist.
It didn't exist anyway, did
no.
it, if you think back? Yeah.
So it's all very new. Obviously the role is new. So the idea, I came into Phase 3 as a business analyst. The idea of the AI strategy lead role is to look at how the company utilises AI, where it benefits within the company, the rollout of use cases and governance as well, which falls under that.
Excellent.
So
and
there's a lot to it.
There is so much to it. And obviously, at some of the events that Phase 3 attend, AI is on every single agenda. It's on every single stand. And I say it almost every time, with my background being in HR, that we've never been the most technical people. So you throw AI into the mix, and I actually think it's quite scary. And we have conversations about this a lot, Gemma. Do you think it's scary? How does it land with you?
I don't think the concept of, because AI isn't new, it's been going on since, the 60s, really. But obviously, like AI was sort of invented years and years ago, and it's been worked on slowly. We've had a few AI winters where people haven't worked on it and it was deemed it's never going to go anywhere. And obviously it's only in the last 10 years, I'd say, that the research into it and the companies that have grown out of it has made it such a hot topic that now it's pretty much every webinar you go to, every seminar, it's the main focus. I don't think AI is scary. I think the speed of it is scary.
Okay.
So just the speed of development and the fact that potentially governance and rules aren't travelling at that same speed.
Yes.
That's probably the scary thing. And also the enabling. So there's a lot of people using things before actually thinking about the consequences of using that tool. So I think that is quite scary, like the shadow AI as well.
The shadow AI?
Yeah.
What's the shadow AI?
So this is where people are using tools that they haven't been signed off by the company. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It just depends on, it's telling the company that you're not technically providing them really the skills or the tools that they need for their job. So it could be that they're using, say for example, ChatGPT isn't a tool that's been signed off. People are using it sneakily because they want to get the job done. They want to seem highly intelligent, efficient, so they put it all into ChatGPT, but then they've left potentially the training data because it's not an approved tool. They've not had instructions on how to use that tool. They could then potentially put HR data into that tool, which then could get baked into that model. Right. So I think that's the scary thing. Without having the processes and governance of the tools that your employees are using, it's a risk.
So every time you use ChatGPT, for example, it's learning essentially. So it's holding that data somewhere and the AI will continually learn from it.
Not on every, so you can turn that off. But if people haven't got the instructions because the business has never actually approved that tool or guided them on how to use it, they might have left that on and then potentially be putting that data out there.
I see. And I don't suppose many organisations are thinking about this yet. So obviously, being a tech company and having you in post, we're probably quite fortunate that we've got this knowledge from you, Gemma, because it's not something that I personally would have thought about. So that might be a place for HR departments to start thinking about. But how would you almost stop that? Is it about sort of communication and awareness that, you know, hey, Louise, don't just type all sorts into ChatGPT because it's not approved. We don't know where it's going. We don't know what it's learning.
Yeah, I think the first thing for any, whether HR or, you know, otherwise, I think the first thing for a business to do is make sure you know what your rules are around AI and put that within a policy. So as in this post, that was kind of the first task I did, was create the AI policy. I tried to do it with employees as well, because we want input on what people actually want or would benefit from as well, and what tools they're currently using. So we surveyed the workforce to find out what tools people were using, because shadow AI will exist until you've got an approved list. It's just AI, isn't it, then at that point? So get your policy out and then look at doing due diligence on those tools and making sure that those tools are safe, they're needed, and that they're doing the job that you want them to do.
Of course. It's such a minefield, I think, just knowing where to start, because there are different types of AI. There's agentic AI, where obviously it's going off and actually doing something. And then there's AI where you know that you are physically using it. So we've obviously used ChatGPT as the example, but obviously Claude, Gemini, whatever. That's where the human knows that they are interacting with HR. Yeah. But with agentic, it's obviously going off and doing things. How would you see those different types of AI lending themselves to HR to improve HR or make HR easier? Where do you see all of this working? Because it is just such a minefield.
I think it really depends on the task, and you've got to ask yourself, first of all, does that task need a human? And in HR, I think for a lot of the tasks they do. Yeah. So an example I have, I went to a brilliant event last week, which was on CV parsing. So it's not a new thing, you know, automatic parsing of CVs, but obviously now we've got AI as a tool to help with that. And what you're finding is that people are applying for jobs using AI, and then you've got AI on the other end that's doing the checking, and it's not really gaining anything from that. So at the event they were talking about how some companies have started using alternatives, so videos, because you can't get an AI to well, you can, but it would be it wouldn't be quite as realistic as potentially, you know, a CV being written by a person. But yeah, so we did an exercise, and just to give credit to Caroline Brown for this one, she handed out 4 CVs, 2 were written by AI and 2 weren't. And as a group, so there was a few different groups, and we had to see which CV we thought was best. And what we would pick for the job, knowing the job title.
Okay.
The ones that people almost unanimously picked wouldn't have been selected by the AI. And it's because the rules it uses are things like, how often do you use a certain keyword? And your current job title, how well does that align with the job title of the job?
Yeah.
So you do need a human.
You do. And I suppose that sort of takes me back. I think everyone listening can probably tell I'm not anti-AI, but it boggles me. I'm probably showing my age, I think.
I mean, you're my age, so.
I know, actually, that's not an excuse anymore, is it? Because we're the same. But how, you need the human, but how is this going to help, like, job seekers or employers to pick out the right person if the AI is focusing so purely on a keyword or experience? Like, as a human, I would use my brain, my intelligence to consider who the best candidate might be based on the CV, but AI is going to kind of maybe miss some of those pieces?
Yeah.
Like, how do we get past that?
I think I guess it sort of also will depend on the scale of your company and how big you are. If you're getting thousands and thousands of CVs, as a bigger company, it's going to be really hard for a person to pass all of those CVs. But some of the companies which were at this AI in recruitment event last week have started doing these alternative methods of interviews. And so people will submit perhaps a video, and because you get a lot from a video, you can tell, I think, more about a person.
Yeah.
Somebody was saying you can score a CV, but you can't score a feel, which
true.
I think is true.
Absolutely. It is true. This is where, again, because we grew up we're millennials, so we remember the world without phones, without the internet. We remember all of this. But obviously Gen Z, etc., don't. They grew up in a digital age. And someone was talking to me about their son that was applying for a college application or something. And the interview was just words on the screen, and they had to sit sort of on camera being videoed, and then presumably, I don't know whether a human was going to watch that or AI to pick up on what this 16-year-old was saying. And again, it's quite difficult to then get the human in the loop.
Yeah.
And I wonder where all of this is going to go, because the kids are used to this. They love it. They don't see maybe the pitfalls that we do about how AI is learning all the time and where that data is going. So presumably, if the organisations you were talking about are using AI for recruitment, what AI is that? Where's it learned from? Because it can't have bias.
Yeah.
It can't have a certain sort of, like something discriminatory in its head. How would that work then? Because we know that it's happening already.
I thought, well, we're not using that as part of our recruitment process, but apparently it's built into, if you recruit on Indeed, it's actually built into that already.
Okay.
If you use some other recruitment companies or, the big recruitment names, then that will be built into the CVs that you get through. So even if you don't think you're actively using an ATS, you could potentially be using one of these systems.
Okay.
And obviously, I'm not saying AI within HR is a bad thing. I just think we need to define which parts of HR should have AI involvement. Everything should have a human in the loop anyway.
Yes.
But I think the danger with recruitment is if you've got 1,000 CVs that have come through, they're scanned by an AI and it only gives you the ones that have scored over 70%, so you're only getting maybe 15. Your best applicant could still be in there, potentially because they've not used AI.
Yeah.
So the ones that did better are the ones that used AI because it kind of made it so it repeated the keywords, for example.
Okay.
So again, it's the company's decision as to what your workload is, how big your team is, in order to see if you've got the capability to review those CVs.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I suppose bringing it back to some sort of more traditional sort of HR generalist context, as AI strategy lead within phase 3 and you sit on the same overall function as HR, what are your plans for AI within HR potentially at phase 3? And is there any advice and guidance that you would like to give to our listeners in HR where you think that improvements can be made?
The first thing I do is start with the problem. So I wouldn't just go to our HR team and say, right, we've got this shiny new tool.
AI.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's stick it on everything and make sure, we're AI enabled. I think the worry is that a lot of companies feel under pressure to attach AI to everything they're doing and wave their hands about, we're AI enabled, we're adopting AI. And it's important because it is a big change. It's like when the internet came about, it's going to change everything. So it is important to have that knowledge, that training, capability, and to use it where it's necessary. But I think it's really important to do it in a sensible way.
Okay.
So I wouldn't just say, oh, we've got this tool, we're going to use this now. Start with your problems. Okay. So whilst I haven't covered the HR team yet, I would be asking, what is the biggest bugbear, what takes the most time, and it's quite an automated process, something that you repeat all the time. If that is something, for example, if it's employee relations, that can't be done by an AI, but if it is something that could be automated, the next question is, do we need AI? If it's an automated process, is there an if-then logic that you could use? Because there's no point calling on an API to Claude or whatever if you could literally just write some code that says, if this, then this, if this, then this.
Okay.
And then AI would be the solution if none of those.
Okay. So maybe when I spoke about sort of different types of AI, the most simple place to start potentially might be, what question does the HR team get asked?
Yeah.
All of the time. How much annual leave have I got left?
Yes.
Things like that. That would be where AI could provide that solution. So instead of being bogged down by phone calls, AI could, would that be the logic?
That is the perfect sort of solution, really, because that is something HR teams do get a lot of queries on, things that's one of those repeated tasks. For example, what's in a policy. So we have been testing for one of our partners a feature which will do this. So you load all your policies in, and the chatbot basically then, if somebody puts a question in, it will look up to the relevant information and return that. So that would save a lot of time, or would be a really useful tool. It's not something that needs a human necessarily. It's not something that can follow an if-then logic. So it's, perfect for an AI.
And that would be where you knew that AI was answering your question.
Yes.
So going a level down, what happens if the data is wrong?
The first step after governance, or really if you can do it concurrently with your governance, you need to sort your data out. Any business, before they deploy any AI solution, if you're running an AI solution on bad data, you're going to get bad responses. So before, you need to look at your processes and make sure that they're clearly defined. You need to look at your data and make sure that that is neat and tidy and in order and documented, and that you've got the governance. So before you even get to that, people are very excited to get to that stage of building an agent or building a chatbot, and that's the exciting bit, isn't it? But you have to do the housework first.
Absolutely.
And sort that out.
And I think that's probably where people haven't started yet. So like we mentioned earlier, it's exciting. There's so much you can do, the art of the possible. But one of the key things has to be your data, being prepared for it. Otherwise, we see this at a basic level already, that you put poor data into a system, it's going to churn out poor data again. So absolutely with AI, that's a key message. Do the housework first. What I've noticed a lot as well with vendors is that so many of them are talking about AI powered, we're AI ready. And I would wonder whether sometimes the marketing is almost ahead of the technology. So when they're talking about being AI powered, if I was looking for a new HR system and I thought, oh wow, AI powered, that's exciting. How would you sort of almost pull me back into reality to stop me as an HR person getting so excited about new technology and then making fundamental mistakes?
Are you talking about if you were to buy a new software system? Yeah. Again, it starts with the problem, doesn't it? So if you're looking to buy a new HR system, if the AI tool or the AI part of the tool isn't addressing a problem that you currently have, then there's no need to be that excited about it.
Yeah.
I think AI should be there to solve the problems that we have. Obviously, it can improve efficiency in a lot of things as well.
Yeah.
But I think, you're probably right with the marketing hunch.
Yeah.
I think there's this FOMO that everybody seems to have at the minute, that if they don't say they're AI enabled, they're just going to get left behind.
Yeah.
So it depends what the features are. I think sometimes people say they're AI enabled, and when you look into it, it's like, that's a very small piece of it.
The reality is different.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what happened to us in October. We attended the Unleash event in Paris, and it was fantastic. Again, AI was absolutely everywhere. But they had an AI bot, And it was actually used. Yeah, did you see it? It was really weird because when the formless, as in AI, it doesn't have a form. When the formless takes a form, and I was talking to this bot, and you could tell that it was learning because it had like this pause, and it was like looking around and stuff. It's strange because it just suddenly felt like so real. We're living in the future now.
Yeah.
It's quite a bizarre sort of concept to think that AI might be doing jobs that we once did. So when we spoke earlier about really simple things, you know, how much annual leave have I got? For like an HR assistant, that's a really nice entry level job, get you started off. So how do you think that might affect the workforce? We were having a conversation actually over lunch about my son, who's 15. Make sure his job is AI proof.
Yeah.
How do you think that it's going to affect the workforce? What do you think is going to happen in the next 10 years?
I think that choice lies with people. I'd love to say that people are sensible with it and don't hand over all of their power to AI systems. So again, another event I went to probably a month ago, there was some really interesting ideas about, we know there's not as much recruitment going on for these entry-level positions. But then the issue is that if we're handing off these lower-level, low-risk tasks to an AI, people aren't going to get the first steps of the ladder. They aren't going to have that growth ladder and the knowledge ladder for them to then develop into a more senior person. So we need to have a bit of both. So we'd still take on those people, maybe get an AI to do it as well, and they collaborate with the AI. So there was some ideas on getting people in to do the same, do those jobs, and then comparing their results with the AI. And the other risk is the people who you've already got as senior level positions, the more they hand off things to an AI, you're kind of de-skilling yourself a little bit. And that's what frightens me slightly. And I've seen it in myself, if I'm completely honest, sometimes. For example, I do Power BI, which is DAX formulas, and I've spent hours and hours figuring out
what's formula. A DAX formula? You've lost me already, Gemma.
It's similar to Excel. It's a very similar format. You've got variables and things. So I have spent, before AI came about, before, your Claudes and things, coming up with formulas and testing things, and it's not working and changing something. Whereas now I can just say, well, could you do me a formula for this? And it takes 10 seconds. But I've noticed when I do come to write something, I'm thinking, could I just put it in Claude? I think you need that kind of almost like a knowledge check every so often, or sharing that load just to make sure you don't lose your own skills.
Yes, I agree. And I'll tell you how I sometimes think of it. Again, going back, you can tell I'm such the sort of human, sort of not anti-AI, but, concerned about it. An example that I always think about is map reading and how the human has completely lost its abilities. So I can't read a map properly. And I remember my dad driving around London with an A to Z balanced on his knees, and he could just look at the map, go like this, and we'd be there. That skill is now lost. Even, cabbies and stuff, they're all using Google Maps. It takes you there, job done. And I've got a friend who knows exactly the way to go, but types it into Google Maps for the sake of saving maybe 2 minutes if it comes up with traffic.
I do. Even if I know where I'm going, I'll put it in because I want to see where the traffic is least.
Yeah. But then, like we were saying, it's almost a bit scary because you've spoken about the skill of, writing a code, the skill of map reading. So then I might be sort of going a bit extreme, but even just like a basic skill of thinking about, I don't know, a certain situation, if people are just getting AI to do it all, are we going to turn into blobs?
Are you thinking Wall-E here?
Yes.
I don't see, unless Google Maps gets switched off and Waze gets switched off, I don't see that we've lost anything with that map reading. I mean, unless we go on a big hike and find ourselves in the middle of nowhere, but I think the risk of that is lower. Maybe with AI, I mean, we're not in control of the prices, are we? So that's one of the risks if we de-skill ourselves to these big companies and then they turn the prices up so that it's
I didn't think of that.
Then potentially you can't afford your Google Maps.
Yeah, I didn't think of that.
But I don't...
Better stop using AI for all my recipes and things.
Oh, I use it for everything, like planning my allotment and things like that. But it's useful for those things. I do remember because my first degree was in neuroscience, and there was something I read about how London cab drivers have actually got whatever the area, you can tell this was a long time ago, I did my degree, but whatever the area that was to do with the reasoning and the geographical reasoning, it was much bigger in a London cab driver than a normal person.
Wow.
I want to know if they've ever repeated that to see if now everybody's using Google Maps. Has that shrunk? Do you always have that in there? That'd be quite interesting. But then the same thing's for us if we know something so well, but then we hand that over to an AI to do for us. Obviously we'll lose the skills, but
this is it.
Yeah, are you changing your brain wirings?
Yeah. It gets big question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And that's where, a bit like I was saying, it's strange when you talk to the real life bot. For some reason, for me, it felt much more real. So like we were saying, you might use ChatGPT to say, I don't know, create my allotment design was your example. If an AI bot was sat here right now, and they always make them look like something out of iRobot.
Why do they anthropomorphize things like that? Why does it need to have a face and a human?
Make it more roboty. Do you remember the Jetsons?
I don't know.
Okay. So Jetsons, but it was like this really funny sort of maid robot, and she used to whiz in on these wheels. She was quite fun actually, and she did all the housework. But jokes aside, when it has that form, you feel more conscious of asking it something. So that's almost the piece. You can type it in to whatever AI you're using, design the allotment. But then if that funny bot thing is sat in front of you here, would you then say to it, oh, please, can you help me design my allotment?
No, because you almost feel like it's an entity then, don't you?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And a concept that I heard, which I actually really like, and I probably would like to do it more myself, is the more you talk about AI, actually the more it means you should talk about being human.
Yes.
So we talk about the human in the loop, we talk about human jobs, etc. So it almost feels like you should have that balance for every AI conversation.
Yeah.
Have a human conversation.
100% agree with that. And I think the sentiment in the last few AI events that I've been to has been exactly that. We're focused on AI. What can AI do? And actually it needs to be, we're focusing so much on the AI, are we losing the human?
Yes.
And how can we make it so that we're getting all the efficiency gains? Because we've kind of talked a lot about risks, haven't we, and fears and things.
Yes.
But there are so many benefits to using AI. You know, there's a lot of operational efficiencies we can gain and things that AI is inherently good at that we're not as humans. So spotting a tiny mistake in reams of text. So you can still have those things, but we need to focus also on what we're going to do with the human. How are we going to ensure that the human maintains their skills and their knowledge, and how are we going to work these two things together? There was a really good thought experiment in one of the most recent events I went to, which was a letter, an email back from the past from a future version of this company. And it was two companies, one that was completely went with AI everything, and ultimately they, in the 10 years email back to themselves, it was that they'd lost a lot of their human skills, morale was low, almost like they'd lost the people that make the business. And the other example was somebody who refused to adopt AI at all, didn't take anything on, but they sort of, the letter back to them was that they kind of got left behind a little bit and weren't successful either, because you need to adapt. It is a changing world and you need to make the adaptations. So the lesson kind of is, it's a bit in the middle. You need to make sure you focus on your people and the skills they have, because as the world changes and as people are engaging more with large language models and handing off their skills, you need to make sure that people have got the the confidence in their own abilities,
Yeah.
upskilling themselves, maintaining skills that they previously had.
Yeah.
And also the normal human communication. This isn't just an AI thing, but probably a post-COVID remote working kind of thing. That making sure people know how to deal with other people, how to communicate effectively and those kind of things, whilst also you've got your AI strategy. Maybe we also need a human strategy.
Of course, yes.
And bind those together.
Love that, a human strategy.
Change my job title.
Yes.
AI human strategy.
I'd love that. Honestly, Gemma, the conversation is fascinating. I would love to carry on, and I'll probably invite you back to do this again, because I think we could just talk for a long time about this, and it's been really, really interesting. So I'll ask you the question. When you were green, and I'd love it if you could tell us about an early moment in your career, what you learned from that, and also, being this is an AI conversation, how do you think that AI could have helped you back then?
Yeah, okay. I'm going to relate it rather than early in my career, because I think a lot of mistakes are kind of the same. You know, CC'd the wrong person in, accidentally
Being
typed
human.
something. Yeah. Which, it resulted in an expletive being sent to everybody. Everybody's made those kind of typo mistakes. When I first started learning coding, so I started my AI masters in 2021, and I was quite stubborn. So at this point, Claude, probably 2023, 24, it was usable, it was quite useful. And I had an assignment, and I'm quite principled in that I don't want to cheat. I don't want to put it into a large language model. I need to struggle in order to learn how to do this.
Yeah.
So the task was I had to write it's called Qlin, and I had to write a function which gave me a result. That's all. I don't want to go too depth because I know I'm just going to see your eyes glaze over.
It's fascinating, yeah.
And then I had to do the same function, but I had to make some tweaks to improve it.
Okay.
So like there's a version 1, which is the base level, and a version 2, which is the optimized level. I could not get version 2 any better than version 1, no matter what I did. I spent about 4 hours, like changing all the parameters and learning rates. I'm like, why isn't it working? So at that point, I was like, I'm giving up. I'm putting it into Claude, which is the one I prefer. And it turned out I had my function for number 1, my function for number 2, but I was calling number 1 twice because I'd copied and pasted like humans do. And I'd copied and pasted the first one. So I was never actually running version 2. But that's the kind of thing that AI is actually brilliant at.
Those little bits that you miss, that attention to detail.
Like one tiny typo, or not typo in my case, it was a copy and paste. But that is, a real benefit of AI.
Goodness.
Better than humans at that.
Yeah, of course. Honestly, Gemma, how your brain works has always fascinated me. Like I say, we have some really good conversations inside work and out, actually. So it's been a real pleasure. Would love to have you back again. And thank you so much for joining us in the green room.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Well, that is all that's left to say here in the HR green room. We'll be back in 2 weeks for more honest conversations, some brilliant guests coming up, and of course the regular Green with Envy, Green with Light, or When You Were Green conversations. So don't forget to subscribe, leave us a comment, and join in the conversation. Until next time, keep giving the green light to things that matter the most.